Hello and welcome to Flat Out Special York Preview. This week we've got plenty of exciting stuff coming up. And I know you're looking at your screens going, oh my God, you're back on Zoom. But don't you worry. We have been out and about on the road, getting the interviews you need to inform your betting decisions for York this week. Jack, the big week on the Knavesmire is coming up. We're going to be hearing from William Haggas, Roger Varian, and they both gave us some pretty interesting information.
It'd be remiss of me not to ask if for the podcast viewers, having worked here for 3 years, if you could maybe steer us in the direction of one horse that you think might win next week, or you have high hopes for.
The one in the Melrose.
Okay. We'll look forward to that one.
Never mentioned it, did he? There we go.
So, Jack, that was William Haggas's big tip for the week. Some of you out there may have worked out what that is already, but we will be revealing who that is at the end of the show, along with, if you hang on to the end, that's where William Haggas's section will be. And he gave us plenty of really, really interesting tips for the week at York and for the rest of the season going forward. So that is something for us to look forward to. Jack, you haven't had a chance to speak yet. How much are you looking forward to the week on the Knavesmire?
Yeah, very much, Joe. Yeah, it's one of the best meetings of the year for me. Obviously, Royal Ascot, but this isn't far behind. And York's such a great track. I'm not sure which days I'm going yet. Possibly Wednesday, but definitely Saturday. We'll get on into a bit more detail for the EBOR later, I'm sure. But no, really looking forward to it. It's a great week of racing.
Certainly is. So we have William Haggas coming up. We've got Roger Varian, an interview with him to talk to him about some of his teams. Obviously, big news today with Roger Varian having the Sheikh Mohammed Abeid horses moved away. That's probably going to thin his team out a bit, but we've caught up with him about some of his big horses of the season. We've basically got an update on Charon, Jabara, where all these horses are going. So please do stay tuned for that. We'll be looking at the 2-year-old races, the handicaps, but first and foremost, we'll be looking at the 4 feature races for this week on the Knavesmire. So, Jack, just to start us off, the Juddmonte International is the first race we will be looking at. Does it get your blood pumping?
It really does, yeah. Look, pretty much other than maybe White Birch and Passenger are the two. That's a shame, but we've got the French horses, the Japanese horses, all the 3-year-olds and some of the older horses. It looks like a really good race, doesn't it? Now, I'm really looking forward to it. It's a great way to kick off the week, and we've got Group 1s every day, and then obviously finishing with the big handicap on the Saturday too. We
do. And so, City of Troy, are we backing or laying if a gun was to our head?
Well, I'm not sure about you. Obviously, we did discuss it after the Sandow, but I've got to stick to my guns and double down, and I just can't touch them. Certainly at the prices as well, and certainly in a deeper race. Fair enough, Al Rifas went and subsequently considered that form with his Group 1 win in France, but yeah, I can't have him in this field, certainly at that price, and he's got to be taken on for me.
And so where is your money going?
It came down to 2 ultimately. I'm going to go with the older horses, and Alflela just pips Zarakem. I really like that Prince of Wales's form. I know Zarakem was second, Alflela was 4th, but Alflela, his first run of the season, he since went and won a really tactical race at York. He's unbeaten at 3 tries on the Knavesmire, and I just think it's very hard to pick holes in his case. He's a very solid each way chance at around 10-1. He's getting better with each start, and I think he'll be absolutely cherry ripe for this, and I can really see him running a very big race.
I criminally deserted him last time, didn't I?
You did, yeah, but I can completely see where you were coming from on the line, kind of like through Hookham. He would have been fully revved, so maybe if you had your fingers burnt then you wouldn't be so forgiving in York. But I really like that performance. I thought it was a little bit snug. I think he was valued for a bit more. Again, he's shown that this level of race isn't beyond him. Irish champion last year, as we've discussed before, that there was just no chance really from with a race that panned out. And as I say, I think he's just improving. I think he's got more to show. We've not really seen the very best of him. And I think he, at the prices, I thought he was just a bit too big. So for me, I thought he was a good each way angle.
Yeah, and I think personally as well, Ambiente Friendly and Calandangan are both kind of where they should be in the market, just about for me, in the likelihood of overturning. I mean, I think the French horse was very, very impressive at Royal Ascot. Showed a real turn of foot, some real speed in the final furlong. I've been speaking today, and some of those final sectionals that he fired were pretty impressive. So he's definitely a dangerous horse in this. And Ambiente Friendly coming down to 10 furlongs could be competitive as well. Because if you stop both of his last 2 races over 1.5 miles, he was going probably the best in the race at around the 10 furlong point. So it'd be interesting to see how they both get on. But I don't think they're both. I think they're both kind of about the right price. If we're looking at one, I don't think Juretza on ratings is like the Japanese horse is that far behind. You know, he's rated about 120, isn't he? I mean, it's always hard with these international horses coming over to really kind of, especially when we know very, very little about the opposition, unlike the French horses that do come over. And so we got a bit of a line. Juretza is a bit of an unknown for us, isn't he? But he seems quite a big price. Even he has run good races over 10 as well as the longer trips, because he obviously won the Japanese St. Leger. He'd be interesting. And also Maljoom, 10 furlongs. Do you think it's going to suit him at York?
I think so, yeah. And as we'll hear from William, he certainly has wanted to try him at this trip. Whether he's just a tip top notcher, I'm not 100% sure, but I certainly think it's worth a go. A fair track like York will really suit him. He's not going to have any hard luck stories, and I could certainly see him running into the places. I think we should probably mention Blue Stockton as well. They made the decision not to run the Yorkshire Oaks to come here. Obviously, their race. So that's yeah, absolutely. I think so. And obviously, she's won our Fillies Group 1 now, so you might as well go for the big one, mightn't you? So no, fair play to them for doing that. Adds another dynamic. And as you mentioned, the Juretza there, but Zarakem as well. Just come back to him. I think some of the and Calandagan, that some of the foreigners could just be underrated, as they always are, aren't they? So Zarakem, I wouldn't forget about him too at 16s, and possibly Ghostwriter back on quicker ground. Maybe he can bounce back. There's certainly question marks over quite a few of them, isn't there, Joey? And it wouldn't be a surprise, as you say, maybe like a Maljoom or Ambient Friendly bouncing back with conditions now maybe to suit.
Certainly, I wouldn't be putting up a bet in the race. My selections would be Juretza and Maljoom each way, but I wouldn't be putting them up as bets as such. What would your selection be, Jack? Just to highlight.
Yeah, just to come back, it would be Alflela. Depending on the day, I might double up and have a Dutch and go with Zarakem. I really do like that.
Is this a bet you're recommending, or is this a selection?
Alflela is, yes. I'm still not quite sure. It wouldn't be for now, Zarakem. I just want to probably get to the day and see how it is. Maybe get an extra place or something like that. But yeah, Alflela, he definitely is a 10-1 each way chance. Just come back to City of Troy. I don't think we've properly touched on him. What do you expect from him here?
We've said that multiple times this year, haven't we?
No, exactly. If we kind of brush over, is he going to be beaten? And then I think we should really take a bit of a deep dive and give him sort of the minute he deserves.
I think this track will really suit him. I can see him being as impressive as he's ever been. I think the ground on the Knavesmire will, looking at the weather this week, there may be showers around, but probably later in the week was what I was looking at just an hour or so ago. So I don't think there's going to be any complaints. The ground's going to be exactly the way he wants. He's going to have that nice, really, really long, half a mile essentially straight to show what he can do. And I think with a field this size, it will allow him it'll probably have the gallop to show him, especially with Juretza in there as well. He's going to want to push the pace, I would imagine, especially with the way you see those races run in Japan. When they say push the pace, they mean it. So I think he will be right up there with the Ballydor pacemaker. And I think it will set up for City of Troy to be pretty impressive, to be honest. Yeah, no,
I think it's important to probably start with the ground, as you say. It looks like it's going to be good for maybe a few showers, but I can't see it getting much slower than that. Israel could be a pace angle as well with Juretza and obviously Hans Andersen, as you mentioned. There certainly isn't going to be any excuses for him. It's going to be it should be a true gallop, and as we say, York's such a fair track, there shouldn't be any hard luck stories. I just think he's beatable. I really do. I certainly agree in the fact that he wasn't at his best at Sandown. You can see him at the bottom bend there. Ryan said he did take like a bad step. I think Aidan said in his post-race interview. So while I might not agree with the whole stalls debacle in the Guineas, I certainly can see him he definitely wasn't at his best at sound. I just think at the prices, I just couldn't touch him. I thought the way the things panned out in the Derby, it was sort of tailor-made for him, and I think he probably will be at his best over a mile and a half. So something like the Breeders' Cup Turf or whatever target, it doesn't look like they're going to go for the York for him. So I think if you're ever going to get him beat, this is a real acid test for him. And fair enough, if he goes and wins, he is a real superstar. But yeah, I'm going to be taking him on, Joey.
Fair enough. And as I say, each way angles for me around him. Okay. Kicking on, Yorkshire Oaks, Jack, one of your stronger fancies of the week runs in this.
Yeah, I might be taking on Aidan O'Brien in the Juddmonte, but I think this is really the race for content, isn't it? I think if you can ever really have a go at Ryan Moore for getting one wrong, it was probably this filly, wasn't it, in the Irish Oaks? He just couldn't get a run and just got going a bit too late and a bit too far back. And I think for me, she was really was the one to take out of that. And I think the time before she probably surprised Ryan in the fact that she settled so well. And I think with another half furlong, she probably would have beaten Blue Stocking and Emily Upjohn. She doesn't obviously have Blue Stocking to worry about here. And Emily Upjohn's been very disappointing at Goodwood. So I think we can take her on. And I think Queen of the Pride, Grand Filly, and certainly improving. I just think Content now with back on quicker ground, shows that mile and a half isn't going to be a problem. I think ultimately the one race I really look out for her is the Breeders' Cup Filly in May over a mile 3 in November. But I think this is the perfect race for her, and I really do like her at around 3-1, and she probably would be my best bet of the week.
Don't be giving that away so early. Cool. Jesus.
Well, there's plenty more nuggets to come, Joey, isn't there? So got to keep them interested.
Thank God we've got William Haggas at the end of the show now. You've just blown everyone's excitement over what your best bet of the week's going to be. Oh, dear me. We've got a running order for a reason, you know. Right. Okay. For me, not a race that I desperately want to get involved in, but I will be tempted in to have a small bet on Samir, Dermot Wales filly, just because I'm just not a massive fan of a lot in here. Not a massive fan. I think Blue Stocking coming out is just fantastic. You know, it makes this race a bit more interesting, a little bit flakier for me. And Dermot Weld, you know, as you say, the old cliches about him and his love affair with York. It just looks like quite a winnable race, and she's obviously gone and won the Munster Oaks fairly impressively last time. She's improving. She's extremely lightly raced, as obviously a lot of these are. But I just think that I might take a flyer on her continuing her improvement and being able to put it up to some of these more established fillies. But yeah, as I say, it's not a desperately strong fancy. It's more just on the fact that I'm not overly excited by the race. And it's interesting he brings one like this over. He probably have a good line on her, given the fact that he had the English Oaks winner for the same connections earlier in the year. So I'd just be really surprised if he was bringing her over for no reason.
Certainly wouldn't be wasting a trip over.
No, and as I say, you'd think he had a good line through her at home, given that he's had that really, really classy filly in his barn already for the majority of the summer. Sadly, obviously, retired. So, I just thought it was very eye catching. So, you know, I might sometimes I'm never desperate making those sorts of cases. It's just not my cup of tea usually, but that one just stood out a bit. So yeah, no, I'll be having a small play on Samir.
Very good.
So should we kick on? Friday, living the dream. Nunthorpe, can he do it again? How many dual winners of this have we had? Soul Power, Borderless Scots, Batash. Am I missing one? Did Mecca's Angel win too?
I can't remember off the top of my head. That's a good one.
There we go. I'm sure. Pete, I'm not even going to take that out. You guys can correct me. I'm sure you all will in the comments below. But anyway, there have been a lot of dual winners of this. Is Living the Dream going to be another one?
In one word, no. I don't think so. I think the way things worked out last year probably just completely panned to how he absolutely needs it. And as I'm sure you're going to get onto, the pace this year is just going to be frightening, isn't it? And I just can't see him getting his own way. And I just don't think he's been quite to the same levels this year. Obviously, he's been chopping and changing with the jockeys. It's great that Sean Curran can get back on him. I like that, the keeping faith and bringing him back in. But yeah, I can't see him being good enough here. I think it's a much better race this time around.
And with that in mind, I as it goes, I kind of agree. I think Tom Segal the Racing Post has put him up already. I think that's probably shortened him in a little bit. He's just for me, just a little bit on the. I can see why people can be making the case that he clearly didn't particularly enjoy Goodwood last time, interfered with Asfoora, may have stopped her winning the race. Do you think he did stop her winning the race?
It's such fine margins, isn't it, in these sprint races that I don't ultimately know. I don't think he did, and no, I don't think he did. No, and you could run these races 10 times and get 10 different winners, couldn't you, Joey? So I think that's just the way it's going to be. What I do, as I've just alluded to there, I think it's going to be so quick that I know they don't come back to them at York, but I think it will suit one of the closers. Maybe not something right out the back, but I could see something coming from just off the pace and pouncing late on. Maybe like how, what Lady Aurelia getting chinned on the line. Something that's going to be tracking the pace and just striking off, because we've got so many up front Pontos as well as Living the Dream, and Washington High Tea can certainly force the pace too. And I just can't see them being able to maintain that throughout when they're taking each other on.
Interesting, because I rather hope they do.
Look at it, he didn't come back last year, but no, I think that would lead nicely into where you're going with your selection, I think.
Well, I just was looking through this, and obviously you can get up these weaving victories like Soul Power. Horses do get up on the line in this race with a real pace collapse, but then you also do get big price runners going very, very, very well for a long way. I do seem to remember Kay Amoro went very, very well for a long way against Batash one year. I mean, that was one fast horse over 4. If they had 4 furlong races, that'd been perfect for her. And I can just see, as often you get in these sprint races, a big price horse placing. And for me, that horse could be Pontos. I see him at 50 to 1. He managed to lead Living the Dream at Goodwood. That may be because Living the Dream didn't really particularly enjoy the downhill nature of the track. But I think Pontos is probably looks like a quicker horse to me. He's obviously going to be under huge threat in that final furlong. But as we've suggested with the rain situation this week, the weather, it's going to stay dry. This horse suits Meydan down to a ground, a track where you can rattling quick track where you can get out in front, and sometimes they just don't quite get to you. And I could just like with Living the Dream last year, if he gets a decent draw, he could be just quite hard to peg back. And at 50 to 1, I'm going to take my chances. I don't think there's a huge amount between. I don't think Asfoora, as much as I like her a lot, and Big Evs are, shall we say, superstar sprinters. Would you?
Not yet. I think Big Evs has the potential to possibly get there. He's still young enough, isn't he, to get better. I certainly wouldn't put Asfoora up there with some of the Australian greats and maybe some of the better sprinters that have come over here in the last sort of 10 years. But
I could just see Pontos making a bold bid from the front. He'll probably get picked up, but that's what you'd expect of a horse that's priced at 50 to 1.
I do like the angle though. At 50 to 1, you know that it's going to be suitable for how he's going to run. And no, those prices is certainly worth a little
flat
bit.
Track, fast 5 furlongs, very similar to Meydan, good ground, and big point of the lot being switching jockey and a massive upgrade in Miguel Barcelona, with no malice towards previous jockeys, but Miguel Barcelona will be back on this horse. He knows him well, and I think he could just get the fractions right enough to keep this horse in the frame. And who knows, this race he could just not come back and win, and we'd have a 50 to 1 winner. Wouldn't that be a nice way to set up the weekend?
And you get everyone saying, "Oh, bring on the jumps." 50 to 1 rag. And
whilst I'm giving that one,
there is absolute logic to it. There is going to be people who backed it. Whereas for me, I anticipate a pace collapse, and one horse that's maybe come back onto the radar certainly in the last sort of 2 weeks is Bradsell, the forgotten horse, and what a return it was. He looked back to near enough his best. I tipped him up. He was a strong fancy in this race last year. He was probably a little bit unlucky. He was sort of away from Living the Dream over towards that further side. So quick round. The only worry maybe would be the bounce factor. Archie would have had him pretty much revved for that. So it's having 11 months off and then coming back. That could be a worry. I am going to back him, but my stronger fancy of the two, I'm again going to take two selections. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Another horse, a filly who's going to be on the speed. She's turned up to every dance and certainly isn't too far away from the likes of Asur and Big Evs as well. And that's Believing. I think this track will suit a lot better than it will Goodwood as well. I think ultimately probably George Bowie has the Group 1 back at the Curragh next month as her main target, but she just seems to absolutely be thriving this year, and she's been even better, hasn't she? So impressive. I was at Haydock the day she won there into the teeth of a headwind. I thought, Jesus, this must be a real good filly, and I've followed her ever since. So, yeah, I'm not going to leave her just yet, and I could see this suiting a lot better than it did Goodwood. And obviously, with that in mind, I don't think if she improves maybe a length on that, I can definitely see her winning. So at 8-1, the pair of the two, I really like that kind of attack going into this race.
Completely can see both of those cases. Bradsell would be a saver in the race for me for the same reason. Seemed to suit very well last year. Just the draw did for him. Just wasn't in the best position. I think he was the unlucky horse of the race last year. So let's hope that he can get back to his best. But I hope he doesn't quite pick up Pontos. Right, on to the EBOR. EBOR time next. A race that you always have in your mind throughout the year. Who do you think is going to win this year's edition? We need to pick up the pace, Jack, because we've spent plenty of time on those Group 1s. Give me some winners.
Well, look, it's going to be a biased one for me. I'm probably more hopeful than confident, but obviously Wise Eagle, the fairy tale story for my brother. Look, if we can be in the first 4 or 5, then that would be amazing.
Be some story, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would, yeah. And hopefully
Shame
viewers
you've already made the documentary.
Exactly, yeah. If viewers haven't yet checked out the documentary that I produced there last week, so that's also on the Racing TV channel. The full story behind the Wise Eagle and all the lads that own them, just general lads. Some of them having their first foray into racehorse ownership, and yeah, Adam just worked him there a couple of days ago at his final bit, and honestly, he said he's never really felt him being better. So if you're ever going to have the horse in tip-top condition, then might as well be going into the EBOR. So look, as I say, it's such a competitive race, isn't it? And he's got plenty of weight. And Danny Tudhope might not ride him. Fair enough. He's got the choice of the favourite Epic Bird for Amira. So we're still not 100% decided on the jockey yet. But look, I'm sure Adam will make the right decision, as he has always done with this horse. So yeah, we're very hopeful, more than confident. Just wanted a huge price on that same filming trip. We went to see Adrian Keatley. He at the time didn't think Kiava would get in. It looks now that he might just sneak in. He just needs one to come out. So he looks like he'll be a runner. He has such a good record at York. He was second there earlier this season. And he was really unlucky not to win at Market Raisin. We know he's in good form. So at 50-1, he'd probably be one I'll wait for closer to the day, hoping he might stick around that price and get 6-7 places, maybe with Sky or someone like that. And I could certainly see him running a big race at a big price. So Kiava for maybe a saver, but obviously I've backed Wise Eagle, of course.
As well you might, and as well you must. Have you ever backed the winner of the EBOR?
I have, yes. Willing Foe off the top of my head, I think a couple of times. But that would be one that sticks in my head. Willing Foe for Frankie, a proper ride that was. Yourself?
Certainly. No, I don't think I ever have.
Okay. Well, there's never a better time to break it than this year.
Yeah, so everybody on the edge of your seats for what I'm about to say. Burdett Road, for me, is a horse I really like. I really liked over the sticks during the winter. Like before that at Royal Ascot last year, won very, very well over 10 furlongs. Really strong travelling horse. I think that's what I quite like in the EBOR. I just want the horse to travel. Obviously, you don't want them to over race. And I think with his sort of mind in mind, so to speak, I think they're going to be probably riding in midfield. Sylvester de Souza is jocked up, ready to go. Aggressive booking for this horse. I think the return at Ascot, he was very, very tenderly handled. That was a horse that had been off for a long time and was just being eased back into it. I thought it was a really nice run. I thought he travelled well. He looked full of vim and vigour. He just didn't quite have the fitness edge to go and get competitive in that race. And he was given one smack behind the saddle and that was it. And it was just hands and heels to the line. I think it's been all about this race for him before going back hurdling. And I think a mark of 101 probably can underestimate him. I underestimate him. I think it's obviously Sergino's a very, very, very good horse. He was one of the only ones to give him a race last year. And I think that stepping up in trip to a mile 6 will probably be just what he wants in a big field handicap where they can settle him and smuggle him into it. And I just quite fancy him off mark 101. I think he's got a little bit of wiggle room there. I think he's a very classy horse. You go back to how he won that Ascot handicap, obviously of a much lower mark, but he just travels with so much, as I say, vigor. Like I like the way he goes through his races. I think as he gets stronger, will get better and better, and he's still only 4, so this horse is going to be with us for a long time, I hope, and I think he's got some improvement to do on the flat and over hurdles. So he's a fairly strong selection for me in this. I think around 40-1 is a very nice price. I think there are a few that are around that price that should be a bit bigger. I think he should be a bit shorter, but we'll see what happens this week. Obviously, if you want to wait for more places, you may have to take a shorter price.
Very logical case. I like it.
Any thoughts?
No, look, it was one we discussed before. It's hard to kind of pick holes. It's obviously been a long-term target. As you say, high-class form over jumps, but look a bit further back. He's ran some good races last year. He was sort of a horse that looked like he could move into the cusp of listed and group races sort of last year. And that probably just have been mining his mark ready for this target. And yeah, no, I really like it. And there's already been today, obviously, confirmations. It looks like there's been a few shrewd bits of money for him already. So certainly a few people agree, Joey.
Yeah, I think ground will be absolutely fine as well. So I could see him, 2 furlongs.
I actually see that. Yeah.
And I could see him being in the finish here. So I think at the price, I like him a lot. Okay, right. We are going now to hear from Roger Varian on a number of his stable stars, a few exciting ones for the rest of the season, and a couple for this week on the Knavesmire. Over to Roger.
So Roger, there's nowhere else we can start really than with Charin at the weekend. That must have been one of the most satisfying wins of the whole season for you so far.
It was, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's great to see Prix Jacques Lamar. It's a very prestigious, one of the European highlights, certainly in the miling division. It's got great history to it. So it's a great race for us to win and to put it on the stable CV. With a horse like Charin, who seems to be going from strength to strength, is really grown into himself this year. Seems to be the finished article, and is proving one of the best milers in Europe. So it was a great thrill to win the race. Not only win the race, but in the style in which he did it was fantastic.
It was so impressive how he stretched away in the final furlong. Is he potentially getting quicker as he gets older, as he gets stronger?
Well, he's certainly getting better. I suppose part of getting better is getting quicker. So I think you're probably right. He's very uncomplicated. Sylvester de Souza's obviously striking up a great relationship with a horse. He knows him very well now, and he can place him anywhere in a race and have the confidence that he travels with ease against those top milers, and that he's able to show a turn of foot against those top milers. So yes, he does have speed. He has a lot of speed, but he has stamina as well.
Are you looking forward to York next week?
Very much so, yes. We're looking forward to York, hoping to run As Your Angel for Opulence Thoroughbreds. She will be entered for the 5 furlong fillies handicap on Wednesday. And we got, other nice horses going, so we're very much looking forward to the week.
So let's stick with As Your Angel then. We haven't seen her since, was it the Guineas meeting at Newmarket at the start of the season? Yeah. What's been the story with her during this middle part of the summer?
She had a little setback after Newmarket. It was found that she just needed a little bit of a procedure on her throat, just to maximise her airway. So we had to give her a bit of time off following that procedure. But she's trained nicely over the last 6 weeks. This race at York being the target for some time now. It's a 5 furlong race at York, which is one of the fastest 5 furlongs in the country. It will really test her speed. She always travels strongly in her races, so we'll really find out if that is 5 furlong speed she's showing us, or whether it's been slightly deceptive. But she's in good form. She's ready to get her season, started and back on track. So we're very much looking forward to it. But we have some nice horses to look forward to at the end of the week. Good team going Friday and Saturday. Some nice horses for the handicaps. We might run Emphajar. Emphajar has been in great form. won with John Smith's Heritage Handicap at York early in July, and he was touch unlucky not to win Heritage race at Goodwood, the first race on Tuesday at Glorious Goodwood. He was a fast finishing second.
Yes.
So he could go to York on Saturday, step up into Patent Company for the first time for the 9 furlong Strensel.
Yep. There we go. Fantastic. Just another horse that I was quite interested in, Jabara. Where are we going to be seeing her next? She's got a few entries over the next couple of weeks.
Might keep her to her own sex for now, and there's the Scepter at Doncaster St Ledger meeting, the Group 3, or she's also in the Ferry Bridge Stakes at Ferry House at the end of August.
Deborah's Dream, on the other hand, 1-2 on the spin. He must be quite satisfying as well to get a couple of wins into him. Up to 88 now. Do we think we can get a third on the bounce?
We're hopeful, yeah. There's a lovely race at Goodwood at the end of the month that we're targeting with Deborah's Dream, having run well at the track earlier in the year, finished in second. You know, I think he's improved since then, and I think the track will play to his strengths, and he's another horse who's on the upgrade. He's getting better and better. I think one of the most consistent horses in training. I don't think he's run a bad race. You know, he's always either winning or on the podium. He's a lovely horse to train, and you know, hopefully he's got a bit more success in the locker.
Because he seemed to have a little bit of that left, sort of have a little something left anyway at Sandown in the final furlong there.
He did. He was doing his best work late on, wasn't he? You know, he's a strong stayer at the mile distance. It might be that we experiment going up in trip with him at some point, but as he's doing so little wrong at the mile, you know, we're not prepared to move from a mile just yet, but he shapes like he could stay further.
And it's a bit surprising for a Sioux Nation, isn't it, to see him kind of coping with steps up and trips so easily.
Yeah, look, he's a good young stallion, and we're still learning about his stock. I wouldn't have had too many through the stable, but you know, I've been looking at his results elsewhere, and you know, he's a stallion doing very well, but he seems to be getting them winning over a variety of trips. He was obviously a very fast horse himself, and he is siring sprint winners, but he is getting horses to stretch out as well. So I'm not sure of the limits to Deborah's Dream's stamina. As I say, he's doing very well racing over the 1 mile distance at the moment, and that's where we'll stay for now.
So there we go. Roger very strong on Emphajar for the Strensel Stakes coming up next Saturday, I believe, isn't it, Jack? So that's definitely one to take note of. And obviously, fillies only targets for Jabara, Charon. He seems just over the moon with, doesn't he? So it's despite losing Sheikh Mohammed Abeid pretty much today, he's still having a very good season, and he is a very good trainer.
Yeah, he might not have maybe a team of strength as possibly past years, but as you say, he's got Sharon, who has just sort of surprised me and keeps getting better and better, and again was really impressive, and certainly looks to take them more heights. And as you say, a classic winner as well with El Malka. Let's not forget about her, and it's turned out to be a sneakily quite a good season for him. More Group 1 winners. I think that's certainly, from a personal point of view, you'd always want a bit more from him in the last few years. Obviously, having a Ledger winner with Eldarov as well, he's certainly banging in those Group 1 winners, and he's continued that this season. And I'm certain he'll get more support from other owners going forward. And I know we've got to be quick, but I just wanted to note how it's interesting when he did come into the care of these Obeid horses, and he took he was taken over from Kumani, and he wasn't quite ready at the time. It's just a nod to Luca Kumani, who by all means he could have said, right, take them away, but he was gracious enough to say to Roger, and I think maybe the owner, like, you can keep them at my stable for as long as you need. And Jesus, when an owner's taking all your horses away pretty much at the time, and I thought that was such a classy move from Luca Kumani. So it just reminded me there today of that little nugget when from my time during the Newmarket. But Roger as well, such a nice guy, and it was great to see him there last week, wasn't it, Joey? And all the best to them for the rest of next week and the rest of the season.
Here, I totally agree with all of that. He's one of the most giving people with his time that I've come across in racing, and an exceptionally busy bloke. So, yeah, nothing but great things to say about Roger for sure, and how he conducts himself. Okay, on to day one, handicaps and, other races, basically any other business. Jack, do you have any interest in the 1,100 metre or the 5.5 furlong opening handicap of the York Ebor Festival?
I'm certain I'll have a bet on the day, but at the moment it looks like such a minefield, doesn't it? Yeah, it's not a race I've fully got stuck into yet. I know you've got a fancy Democracy Dilemma as a horse I really like, so I'll maybe have another look at him. But I know you do quite like one, don't you?
I do, yeah, I do. I mean, I like JM Jungle. I thought he was, obviously we had a blanket finish in this race last year. He travels into races. He's often kind of nice and prominent where you want to be in these kind of these sprint races at York on quick ground. So I think he has a lot going for him. He's coming back down to a mark of 88. His last winning mark was about 87. I think he often goes really, really well at this track, and he's just one that I think can run a fairly big race again. I'm excited to see where he goes, how he goes here. Yeah, he's a horse I like. As I say, I think he's handicapped to run quite well in this race, and I don't think he's badly drawn in 6.
I just want a quick mention in the Acom there. Ruling Court would be the most impressive 2-year-old I've seen this season. That move at Sandown last time from the 3 to the 2 pole, and the sectional certainly back that up. I'm really excited to see him, and the line in Winter is obviously it's a great matchup, and certainly in terms of jockey, trainer, and pedigree as well. What a race that's going to be. Wouldn't be so much of a price at a bet at the prices, but I do quite like him looking a bit further afield. He's 12 to 1 for the Guineas and the Derby, and I've availed myself a little bit for the Guineas. I just think look, on that visual impression, sometimes you just got to go with your eyes, don't you? And I was blown away by it, and I'm hoping he can follow that up here. I'd imagine then he'll go. Well, I just think possibly he can do both. I think he could be the superstar for next season. I really like that performance, and hopefully he can follow up. Yeah.
Yes, and I mean, the Lion in Winter also put in some pretty serious closing sectionals, didn't he? For a strong, well, kind of a quickening pace, basically, in the final part of that race to go past and win very, very impressively. Were you not impressed by that visually as well?
No, absolutely. Yeah, no. As I say, it adds another dynamic to the race, and you wouldn't get much of a price on Ruling Court if he hadn't been declared this morning. So no, I'm really looking forward to it, and we'll kind of know where we stand when you're getting another impressive 2-year-old taking him on. So no, it's a good barometer of how good he'll actually be. But I'm expecting him to win. I really do like him.
Certainly times have changed, doesn't it? The world does turn, because I mean that's a Godolphin horse, very expensively bought by a Coolmore stallion. So you know there were days when that would not be a thing. For them to have a very, very expensive Justify, you know, times have changed, haven't they?
Yeah, that's it. And obviously Coolmore using Dubois more and more as well. So yeah, it's
Henry Longfellow. So yes, Ruling Court, certainly a very, very exciting 2-year-old. And just for everyone out there, Jack said one of his bets of the early part of this week would be to double him up with Tottenham Hotspur tonight, my beloved Tottenham Hotspur. So you'll know very well how that's gone by the time you watch this, as this will go out on Tuesday morning. Right, on we go then, Jack. Actually, probably just before we do, I would mention that I know it's a very competitive race, that Stayers race at 4:10 on the Wednesday, but I do think it's quite interesting, and I think Knightswood's been quite unlucky a couple of times. His mark's kind of not moved. He's been running very, very well, but he's been absolutely buried twice, once at Haydock and then once more recently at Goodwood. He's a horse that with a nice fair track like Goodwood, I can see running quite a good race. He's around about the 9 to 1 mark. It might tempt me in, not to put him up as a bet, but certainly is one that, you know, if I was picking one of my kind of shortlisted horses for the week, he'd be one. Can you see that case?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, another one we were just talking about before, and twice, yeah, you've thought, Jesus, that horse has been so unlucky there. When it's happening once, fair enough. When it's happening twice, it's so frustrating. I'm sure people will be following him every week. So, no, as I say, a fair track coming to York. It's going to be hopefully no excuses like that this time, and I could certainly see him going really well. Certainly got a bit of room off his mark, I think, and no, I do like him. I probably, if it got to the day, I might have a go at him. Yeah, it certainly wouldn't be a strong bet for me, but no, I can absolutely see the case. He'd be near the top of my shortlist as well.
For sure. Interesting. So we move on to the Thursday. Some interesting fillies in the Lowther, Heaven's Gate, Leah Varney. We've got See Just in Time in the Henry Cecil. Jack, what stands out to you on the rest of the card bar on Yorkshire Oaks Day?
Yeah, so obviously content leading the way, but in the Clipper handicap, I think El Najm is the proverbial group horse in a handicap. Obviously, I've had the benefit of hearing what William's already had to say about him.
Well,
Interesting.
You've blown that one as well.
Well, no, I haven't quite.
Or did he say that?
Well, he offered a bit more on the Ascot race that I didn't quite think about at the time. It was interesting, his thoughts on that. I'll not give it away too much now, but certainly I think it's 7-2. It's short enough, but I've already had a go at him on for this. I just think he's £2 well in. He's been given an entry in the Group 1 QE2, and William's not going to be wasting entries on a horse like him if he doesn't think he's up to it. So in a handicap here of effectively £2 well in on his current mark, I think he'll be very tough to beat for all. Obviously, it's a very competitive heritage handicap.
It is a bit, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is.
All the familiar faces are here, and horses in good form.
Yes, and the most familiar face that I quite fancy would be Blue For You. Be one of my stronger fancies of the week. I mean, I think he's coming back down the handicap now. He absolutely adores York. It's just he's just a proper York horse. David O'Mara's stable's in good form coming into this. It's a track that he does very, very well at. Of course, big target. I can just see him off. I think he's very dangerous off his handicap mark. People will be looking at him, and as you've suggested to me, the fact that you've got potentially a group horse in a handicap heading the betting here, you're getting bigger prices on some of the others, like a very dangerously handicapped Blue For You. People will point to his run at Goodwood and say it's disappointing. I think that in my view, it's just the classic sort of thing that can happen in that race. You just don't get into it, you get knocked about, and it just doesn't happen for you. You sweat up, you get into trouble. He's one. And I think the other one is Holloway Boy for sure. I think he ran very, very well from a very bad position in that Golden Mile. This track will be a lot fairer. I think it will suit him very, very well. Don't think ground's an issue for him. I think he can be competitive at 105. It's potential that there are other horses that are better handicapped, but he's going close. And I just think that without some of the challenges that were posed to him last time on a fairer track, he could go very, very well in this as well. So he would be just a shortlisted one behind my big fancy, which would be Blue For You. So as an alternative, if you aren't so keen on the Haggas group horse and a handicap, I think I've given a couple of each way alternatives, and Blue For You will be a bet for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, can see the case.
You can see it, can you?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, it's one of those races, as you say, Blue For You, he just loves the gaff, doesn't he? And Holloway Boy's been banging at the door. The only thing I think for him, I've got him in my tracker, Holloway Boy. He really did catch the eye at Ascot there last day. I'm just going to back him again whenever he goes back to Ascot. I think that's going to be his day. So whether it might be the Balmoral, I know there's a few more 7 furlong handicaps through September time. I'm just going to be waiting that for him, but it would not be a surprise to see him pop up beforehand. So yeah,
so preferred his runs 3 runs back at Ascot, not the last one at Goodwood, because the last one at Goodwood.
Yeah, I just in my head I can't understand why they haven't just, because there's so many of those races at Ascot. I think having won the Cheshire on debut, that's his track, and going to a race like the Golden Mile, you're almost asking for trouble, certainly if you get a double figure draw. So yeah, I'm just going to he's quite a quirky horse, isn't he? I think I'm just going to wait for him at Ascot. I think he's absolutely tailor-made for races there.
He ran well from 13 there.
Yeah, no, he did. Yeah, of course, yeah. But
finished third.
Yeah,
he did get quite hot, as he often can do.
Yeah,
he's a tricky lad, but I
there's no doubt he's absolutely banging at the door, and he's going to win at some point. As I say, sometimes you just kind of make those margin calls, and I think it might just be at Ascot, whenever that may be.
On to Friday then, we are going to start off by having a look at the Lonsdale Cup. Jack, interesting race. I mean, it's being headed at the moment by Point Lonsdale and Vauban. It's not exactly been lived up to what maybe we would have hoped this division could have lived up to at the start of the season.
Yeah, there's been a few disappointments, and none more so than Vauban. I've been very disappointed with him. There's never really a massive turnout in this. It probably maybe lacks the star performer as it has some years. Obviously, we were discussing earlier, Giovanotto, it's a surprise he's not here. Maybe, obviously, the likes of Trushan and Stradivarius no longer racing. But it maybe lacks that star quality. And possibly it could be set up for something at a bigger price. I certainly wouldn't be trusting Vauban now. He just hasn't really clicked this year, has he, Joey? And I think you will be taking him on.
I certainly will. I just, obviously I've been trying to find a horse to take on a few of these with, and been banging my head against the wall basically, because just odd things have been happening throughout the year. I don't like. Point Lonsdale's a lovable horse, isn't he? Such a wonderful family, but it's just not for me at 2-1. Vauban, I think, has been flattering to deceive so far this year. Will they be desperate to come and win this, or are they thinking probably towards going back hurdling with him? I don't know. It's not been really kind of what they would have wanted from the year, especially after his Melbourne Cup disappointment as well. Before that, there was so much hype around him. Gregory, I fancied at Ascot. I think he's obviously run exceptionally well last time, but he's still just not quite improving past that point, which we already knew he was. And that's when you get down to your old mate Align the Stars, who's probably going somewhere else. And my fancy in the race, Alsa Kib. He's rated 111 now, this horse, after a very impressive win at York last time with your mate Wise Eagle in behind, Al Kareem in behind. He's been a steady enough performer. I think he's steadily improving. I mean, they're stepping him up in trip. The last twice he's gone up a couple of furlongs and run probably his best 2 races of his life. He's going to be going up another couple of furlongs in trip. It just seems to be really suiting him. He's only 4 years old. He's fairly lightly raced, and I can just see, as I say, we've shown aptitude for the track. He's one that I just fancy at 10-1 each way to run very, very well. If he continues improving, he could he may well hit the frame, and he could go close to winning. Who knows? I mean, I don't think that the bar is being set particularly high. What do you think about that, Jack?
No, absolutely, I agree. I think it might be time for a horse to kind of challenge these. Certainly a winnable race, and also Kirby, he's only 4 and he's progressing. There's grounds to say he might improve a bit further for going up in trip, mightn't there? So no, I really like the case. I'm hoping he runs well, because obviously it'll be a huge form boost for us going into the EBOR. So no, I'll absolutely be cheering him on, for all he probably wouldn't be a bet, but no, I can absolutely see the case, and as I say, there might just be a bit more to come. Certainly stepping up in trip as well.
Because I mean, pedigree-wise, you can't make the case for it, really.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But it's what's in front of your eyes. And I remember this horse when he was a yearling at Watership Down. He certainly wasn't didn't particularly look like Kingman or look like a sprinter particularly. He's quite a leggy thing, and maybe that he's just kind of grown into that. Just he's a bit of a freak of nature. Gone a different way, because, as I say, it's not in his pedigree to want 2 miles, is it? But that's what it looks like he wants. So maybe he's just a very, very, very good horse.
For Friday, I just want to mention the Convivial Maiden. We have the Jim Crack early on the card as well. I don't have a bet in there, but really, really quick on the Jim Crack. If Camille Pizarro runs, I will back him. It doesn't look likely he will. Just to note that Carl Burke, his best 2-year-old, is Andersite. That's been the talk. So I see he's been clipped in a bit. I don't think Camille Pizarro will run, so that would be a shame. But and as well, the favourite in the Jim Crack, Shadow of Light. We're going to see what William says a bit later on. Off camera, he did say he had one for the Convivial, or maybe 2. Realign, who was second to the favourite in the Jim Crack. So that might be a boost. I remember a few years ago, Malatham, he won the Convivial, and Mum's Tipple the day before had won. So it's just something that had struck a chord with me. But just keep an eye on Realign. And again, visiting Keatley's there, he at the time had an unnamed filly. She's been called Thanks Angel. He said he really liked her, and I mean, you must do if you're going to give her a debut in the Convivial, the richest maiden of the season. So I'm sure she'll be a huge price, but he was really purring about her. So keep an eye out for her as well, and obviously Realign for William.
Excellent. Fantastic. On to the weekend.
Yeah. I don't really have too much other than obviously we've got the EBOR, and the other sort of main betting race for me would be the Melrose. I know you've just touched on Align the Stars. I'm not 100% certain. I think Charlie Johnson said after Goodwood that he might be a bit too high now to maybe go for the Melrose, for all that has been their main target all season. I feel a bit justified now. Obviously, he's won 3 races, and I said he had about £20 in hand, so I'm glad to be proven right with that. thrown off mud, some stuck this season. So yeah, he's improved 23 pounds, mark of 102. That might just be high enough for the Melrose, certainly when you're getting some really well handicapped and improving horses in the mid 80s, aren't you? So it wouldn't be a surprise to see him go for the Lonsdale, and maybe the race for him might be the Ledger. For all that would be pitching a bit too high for him. And yes, as well, obviously Williams' horse in the Melrose, who we'll touch on a bit later as well. But yeah, if Align the Stars, I haven't backed him yet. I'll probably back him for the Melrose, maybe win early. He's around 7-1 favourite at the moment, but I'll certainly wait for Dex for him.
Yeah, and also probably worth mentioning and re-highlighting that Roger Varian very strong on Infajar for the Strenstal Stakes.
Yep.
I thought that was one that he did quite fancy heading back to York. That's important to mention, and we have to also mention Andrew Balding last time highlighting to us See the Fire, very high class filly in his eyes, probably the best they'd had at Kingsclear for many years. He said to us, did we have a little snigger to ourselves? Maybe we did, but she came out and ran a fantastic race in the Nassau, didn't she, Jack? Do you reckon dropping down a furlong to this trip will help her?
Yeah, I think so. I would been yet to be convinced by her, but that was a huge step back in the right direction. And I know we're getting all the angles and nuggets here, but William said that My Prospero won't run here. He's going to go to a different race, I think at Windsor. So yeah, we're getting sort of the real makeup for this race as well. And yeah, I'd probably be erring more towards Enfajar, probably over See the Fire. But yeah, you've got the likes of Ellie who's on a retrieval mission as well. That looks like a proper race to kick things off on Saturday. Really looking forward to that. It
certainly does, but it can, just like last year, sort of turn into the retrieval missions race, can't it? I think.
Absolutely.
The 9 furlongs. This will be the thing this horse wants. He's disappointed a few times. She's disappointed. They haven't quite found it. They're not too hot, too cold. Let's stick him in the Strensel, and then the short price one goes and gets stuffed by something solid.
I mean, if you look at the roll of honour for the race, I'm just looking here: Mondialiste, Lord Glitter, Zarky, Real World, Alflela, Spirit Dancer. I mean, they're horses that have all graduated onto much bigger and better targets. A few Group 1 winners in there as well. So, no,
they are more solid in the main than they're not Nostrum, are they? Last year getting stuffed going.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're not like potential horses that you think are going to be classic horses. They're these solid, hard knocking horses usually that win this race. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. That's just a thought I had when you read out those names. Right, okay. We've mentioned him enough, so it's about time we heard from Newmarket's master handler, William Haggas himself. And just to remind everybody of the context, Mr. Jack Nicol did work in the office there for 3 years, so these two know each other a little too well.
William, here we are, Somerville Lodge. It's great to be back personally. It's always a busy time of year. We're gearing up now for the EBOR Festival, but first we're going to talk about the Opulence horses. Opulence are a new syndicate to your yard this season. I'm sure you've had many successful syndicates. It's great to have them on board. The horse this year, the main one, the flag bearer, would be Red Danielle, who you got from the Horses in Training still. She came with black type, and she picked that up on debut again at second in the Rothsay Stakes a day. Would that be on ground that was quick enough for her, would you say?
Yeah, and she has more to offer too, but she's just definitely going to be a better filly with cutting the ground. And just at the moment, everywhere I put her in, they get no rain, so it's going to be frustrating. I'm sort of now resigned to the fact that it's going to be an autumn campaign with her, and she'll have to work hard when the rains finally come. But she's got more to offer, I'm sure. She's got a strange head carriage, but she's perfectly genuine, and she just needs a nice fast pace, and you'll see her at her best. I thought she was due to run a really good race in the Hoppings, and he just had to stop for a second, and that seemed to lose her momentum. It was just at the camera change as well, so it was difficult to see exactly what happened, but she'll be fine. She's fine. I'm not panicking with her really at all.
I saw that you'd give her an entry at the Group 1 over 1.5 miles. Would be a step-in trip ultimately be the long term with her, or
it's quite an interesting question, because she should stay, and whether she'll allow herself to stay, I don't know. But every year for as long as I can remember, it's been bottomless on Champions Day, and you know, it's one of those that if she's fresh, and why not give it a shot? It might be one of those, and I guess it'll come down to whether we go to France and try and win a Group 3 race there, or have a shot at a big one. So I'm sure that's why she came to us, was to try and go big if possible, and so that's what we'll try to do. We can't run in these races if we're not in them. And I did have her in the Prix Jean Romanet this weekend in Deauville, but that looks like going to be dry, and you know, that's a 4-year-olds and upwards race where it's much, you know, we're over a mile and a quarter, mile and a half, even further. Those 3 and up races are very difficult because the 3-year-olds get such a weight allowance this time of the year. So that's why she got an entry there, but she probably hadn't done enough to run anyway. But if it had been heavy, we may have given it a shot.
Could she be a possible at all for York next week?
I don't think so, no. The only race for her is a handicap, and I'm not sure, although it's very valuable, it'll be very competitive, and I think we're probably better off sticking to stakes races. Having said that, I have this great ability to change my mind, and one phone call with George might change that completely, but at the moment there is some rain forecast at York, I think on Tuesday. My forecast says there'll be none, and then another forecast says there'll be an inch, so usual stuff. So she may get an entry there, but I don't think it's the right place to go.
Very good. And moving on to York, it's always said that you love having winners at York, but any winner's important, of course.
Yeah. And everyone loves having winners at York.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I can't tell you how many people keep telling me that I line them up for York because I'm from Yorkshire. It's absolute nonsense. I line them up from York because it's the
good prize money always.
It's fantastic. It's the best.
And obviously the feature race of the one of the feature races is the International. You won it a few years ago, obviously, with Baid. Maljoum's had a bit of a tough time with injuries. He promised so much. Getting back to it this year, he ran a really good race at Ascot, and then is faster ground probably what you've been in search for with him?
Absolutely. And he's a good horse, him, but he lost his confidence, and he got an injury, a bad injury, and then he ran once last year and ran poorly. It was a bit of a rush, running the Joel Stakes, didn't show anything. He's been much better this year, he's trained much better. He's really had a good spring and summer so far, but every race I feel he's getting better. And you know, it was Tom's idea to put some blinkers on him, and he felt, you know, he said at Ascot, when I went for him, he sort of he wasn't really sort of focused on what he was supposed to do, and then the penny dropped when the thing was all over. So you know, he seemed to run better and he was staying on well. I think he needs fast ground. I mean, I want to try him a mile and a quarter. So this is a tough race to try him, but I don't know whether he just needs a really fast run mile on a stiffish track, or whether he genuinely needs a mile and a quarter. But certainly last time he looked like he would be closer if he'd gone a bit further, and certainly at Ascot he looked like he'd have done the same. So we have options. If it does, that inch of rain does come, he could run in a Strensel, which is only 9, and he's in the celebration mile, and I don't want to run him in the Winter Hill because I want to run a horse called My Prospero in that. So he'll run somewhere next week, all being well.
And the other feature race, obviously the EBOR, the namesake of the meeting, you've got Baid's half brother Nakib. Has he been a little disappointing this year? He sort of ended his last season on a flat note, but he came back and showed a lot more promise last time.
Yeah, I've taken a bit of working out him. He's quite a smart horse, but we ran him in the Copper Horse at Ascot, and I just said to Jim, just drop him out and just get him to finish, because he was up the front in his races and fading and looking like he didn't really want to go. So I said, just drop him out and just try, and we wriggled through a few. And I thought he ran a really good race. If you watch it again, actually, it was a bit unfortunate because he was just starting to make his run, and so a couple closed on him and he had to stop, and he couldn't really he spent half a furlong trying to get that, and then he stayed, and he was only beaten 6 lengths. So I thought that was a good run, and that was backed up at Newbury, where he came from last and nearly won. And unfortunately we had a mistake in our office, which we meant to run him in cheek pieces again and no tongue tie, and we declared a tongue tie and no cheek pieces. So now I've no idea whether he needs cheek pieces, a tongue tie or anything, but I think definitely needs riding like that. Now whether a 1.6 miles at York will be a little bit short for him, ridden like that, but we'll see if they go a nice strong pace, and you know, hopefully he'll run a good race.
I'm sure I was guilty of a mistake like that.
We all
during
make
that.
mistakes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Is a race like the EBOR something that you kind of always had in mind, or was just as the season progressed?
Well, no, I just as the season progressed. Once we figured out what made him tick, we had lots of problems with the horses in general in the spring, so you know, they seem to be running more consistently now, so hopefully that will be, he'll run a good race.
And moving on to a really progressive horse, Al Najm. He's since the gelding over at the end of last season, he's really turned a corner, and you wouldn't know where
he's a bit unfortunate, him, because he threw a splint on his right fore like a golf ball on the outside, funnily enough, and he was really sore in it for a long time in the spring. Now it may prove to be a blessing, but we always thought he was Hunt Cup material, and with the potential of going a bit better in time. And he won at Newcastle a moderate race with no weight, not a moderate race but with no weight, and then he won okay at Ascot. They absolutely crawled, and it didn't suit him at all. He was always just doing a bit too much, Tom thought, but he picked up well. I thought he won nicely, and obviously he went up 8. He's got a £6 penalty I think at York, so the Clipper race is the obvious race. But he's going to get an entry in the Strensall as well, just in case. But I think the Clipper race is a good race for him.
And you may also have Godwinson if the rain arrives in.
Yeah,
in the
he just run wherever it rains now. I've made 2 mistakes with him running him on faster ground. He just wants soft ground, and he's ready to win. I always thought I've thought for some time that the Cambridgeshire might be his race, but it's a long time. That's not till the end of September. So he'll run there, or he'll go to Sandown on the 29th.
And in the city of York, you've got Lake Forest. Came back with a really good run at Royal Ascot. Do you have high hopes?
Backed it up in the Hackwood in a good race, very strong for the grade. Yeah, I'm going to run him in the city of York. He wants fast ground. The faster the better for him. I mean, even a blind man can see that it looks like 7 furlongs is what he needs, because both times he's been at his strongest at the line, so let's hope he was right. He's a pretty talented horse. He's not very big, and he's pretty talented.
No worries on the track, obviously you haven't won there last season.
I do have worries on the track, actually. It's not my favourite track, that 7 furlongs at York, because they tend to, especially for a hold-up horse, they tend to fan out up the straight, and they don't race as tight as they would on a round track or a straight track. You know, if there are 10 runners on a straight track, they usually race together. But on that round track, when they come off, some go that way, some go that way. It's always a bit messy, especially with a race run on the Saturday, when, you know, we've had 4 days racing on it, and they're looking for different ground. So I thought Sacred, I thought that played against her last year in that race, because they did that and she lost her cover, but there we go.
Sacred being one of my favourite horses, and I'm sure Joey will attest, she could never seem to get the grips with York, whereas Newbury was tailor-made for her, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was a really good filly, and but I think the race at the Golden Jubilee, or whatever it's called now, Platinum Jubilee, when she was second to an 80-to-1 shot, which was gutting, but I think that killed her. She was absolutely spot on, and everything was right, and Tom was cantering, and he took it up, and she didn't find a lot in front, and then that horse came and did her, and I think that finished her. She was never the same after that.
And she's off to the breeding sheds now.
She is in foal to Blue Point, I think.
Fantastic, yeah. I'm sure you can look forward to her progeny in future years.
Hopefully,
yeah. And staying with the Cheveley Park theme, Unequal Love was a nice winner for you at Royal Ascot.
Yeah.
Was it right that you were possibly thinking of withdrawing on the morning of the race with worries on the ground, a bit quick?
Not really, no.
No.
I don't know where that came from.
Okay.
It was, I mean, it is right that I wouldn't have run her. It
Okay.
wasn't my first choice of race, and
Okay.
Mrs. Thompson had all her grandchildren in her box, and she asked if she could have a runner, and she was the only entry. So we flushed her out, and she's never asked me. I've been training for them for 37 years. She's never, ever, ever asked to run a horse in a particular race. So that was the least we could do. So she was running whatever. And actually it was wonderful to see her face and all her grandchildren there in the winner's enclosure. It was an absolutely fantastic, joyous occasion for us.
And finally, just the last one to sort of note, Waffy, and he's going to go for the 1 mile 4 handicap at York.
I think so. He'll go in the mile and a quarter race. So I think he looks like he'll get a mile and a half. I thought he was a bit unfortunate at Goodwood. Ran a good race, but he was a bit unfortunate. He's only 86, he went up 3, he's 86, so it'll be 50-50 whether he gets in. I'm not sure he'll have enough weight for James to ride him, but you know, he's a useful horse, and he's took a good step forward from Hamilton. And James, I think, was very pleased with the way he raced, because I don't think he liked the way he raced at Hamilton. He was all over the shop. Although, you know, he's okay, him.
With the gelding, do you think between Windsor and Hamilton that's kind of the making of him? Is he just not had his mind on the job? Or?
Well, if you saw him run at Windsor, you'd have chopped all 4 legs off. He was terrible. But he was better at Hamilton, but James wasn't sure about him. I mean, he won it a long way in the end, but halfway up the straight it was, oh, crikey, this might not win, but he was fine. But at Goodwood he raced much better, and I think James really liked him at Goodwood, whereas he wasn't sure at Hamilton.
Okay. And finally, William, it'd be remiss of me not to ask, if for the podcast viewers, having worked here for 3 years, if you could maybe steer us in the direction of one horse that you think might win next week, or you have high hopes for?
The one in the Melrose.
Okay. We'll look forward to that one.
Never mentioned it, did he? There we go.
We'll have that with you.
Right then, Jack, I think just the final thing to do really after that, say thank you very much to William Haggas for allowing us into his yard, because, you know, not many people get that good fortune, do they?
Well, I'm not so sure about my interviewing skills. There's certainly room for improvement there. Yeah, I was probably getting handicapped for future targets, but no, very generous from William for his time and all the information there. I thought he gave a lot more than I thought he might. I know he doesn't enjoy stuff like that, so no, hopefully a good few nuggets there for the viewers. And yeah, his humour.
I think he does.
I think he probably does. Yeah, maybe it's
enjoy the camera. He doesn't enjoy the camera being on. That's the thing. He enjoys talking to people about the horses. It's just the camera being on and being seen to be bigging up his horses, isn't it? That's the thing that he doesn't enjoy. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. Yeah, like there's a few there. I think you can see the glint in his eye, can't you? And he's always going to have a strong team for York, and there's a good few chances there. See just in time. And the like, there's some of his leading targets, El Najm as well. Obviously, as I say, to make that Group 1 entry, he certainly doesn't waste entries, and I'm sure he'll have at least maybe 2 or 3 winners for the week as a minimum. And no, there's certainly a few to glean from there. And obviously, the Melrose winner, Joey, or the Melrose runner, is his big tip. That I just felt I was running out of time, but yeah, look. Whether he's just said that to end the interview, I'm not sure. We can reveal the name of the horse as it is. His only entry is Dramatic Star, and yeah, just obviously I went and watched that race back that day, and he got completely. You can't see on the replay, but he did slip on the bend. It was the day that Haydock was abandoned, and he was one of the horses. And prior to that, he'd looked very progressive. Obviously, Align the Stars won that race. He's 7-1, and Dramatic Star is around 14, 16-1. So he's a huge price. I think obviously you strike a line through that race, mark of 87. I can certainly see the case of why Williams might think he can go well. And of course, he's won the race twice in the last 5 years. So certainly knows what it takes, doesn't he?
Certainly does. Best bet for the week?
Content in the Yorkshire Oaks. I really do like her. Yourself?
Alsa Kib in the Lonsdale Cup for me. Best bet of the week. Right, Jack, thank you so much for your time. Thank you to Roger Varian. Thank you, William Haggas. Please do remember to bet responsibly. Have a fantastic week on the Naysmire. If you're going or watching on racing TV, every race live, of course, and also a fairly not particularly busy week on the channel. So plenty of wonderful interviews will be shown live. It's a great week to be watching racing TV. So please do enjoy it. And we will see you very soon.